Warning: this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewers' discretion is advised. This show may contain strong language and sensitive or controversial topics. We are not attorneys and are not providing legal advice. The views and conversations are our own thoughts and feelings, and therefore, purely speculation.
The entertainment world and beyond.
Skywalker, air miles, feeding on a surface, glide on the water, constricted and conflicted.
Welcome to Purely Speculation, a show that exposes the harmful effects of the criminal legal system. I'm your host, Heather Lewis, the Executive Director of the Reuniting Family Bail Fund and practitioner of participatory defense. On this show, you'll learn about the unspoken horrors of the criminal justice system and meet fierce allies and advocates. We will make the best of our traumatic experiences. We will get angry. We may even cry. We most certainly going to laugh, but one thing's for sure, we're going to keep it real. Welcome to Purely Speculation.
When they free my sins and let them loose, they was killing me, I got scars to prove, got me paralyzed, I could even barely move. Out the way I took the pain again.
Hey, y'all. Welcome. Season 3, episode 9, y'all. And today is 9/9, September 9th. So if you're in the numbers, work it out. And we're going to talk about some numbers, and there's some disturbing numbers that have to do with incarcerating women. Women are more likely than men to be in prison for nonviolent crimes, and many offenses are connected to other issues like poverty, domestic violence, substance abuse. We can go on and on and on. And so since running the bail fund in 2019, some of our statistics are that 41.6% of the women that we have posted bail for, like 180 people that we posted bail for since 2021, because in our 2019 we incorporated, 2020 we started. We did not post any bail for any women in 2020. So from 2021 through year to date 2025, 41.6% have been women, as opposed to the 57.8% being men. So it's super close, unfortunately, that women, United States incarcerates women, at an alarming rate, keeping pace, with the incarceration of men. I don't have the statistics on Black and Brown, but you can just imagine that those numbers are just equally staggering and high. And so without further ado, we have a special guest, phenomenal woman. I'm so excited for y'all to meet her and get to know her and learn about her story and her journey. We got Erica Kirby from the Kirby Group, CEO, founder, PR expert. Welcome, Erica. So glad to have you on the show. So excited for all the things that we have in store, because we about to level up.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation. It's personal to me.
Absolutely. So how we start this, our show, any other show that we have a guest, is we always talk about the origin story. It's like, how villains became villains, how superheroes become superheroes. And in this case, your superhero is Shiro, right? And so we just want to know, how did Erica Kirby go from being a young woman or one of these, some of our series is Trauma to Triumph, right? How people just overcome traumas in their lives and just things that, could break a person, you know what I mean? And yet here you are, beautiful, smiling, having your own company, like just making moves from, courtroom to boardroom, right? And so tell us, you start wherever you feel compelled to start your journey, so that we get to know how Erica Kirby became the woman we're saying today.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. So I want to start with touching on the topic with women incarceration that you already mentioned early on. I'll start from the beginning. So when I was maybe about 17, I had a few run-ins with law enforcement. One of them that is really traumatic for me was me having an experience with a particular police officer who thought it was okay to kind of just handle me how he wanted to in the moment. So full backstory, I was on my way in the house, and for whatever reason, I didn't even know it was a curfew or anything like that. And this particular officer came up to me and he's like, you need to go in the house. I'm like, well, I'm literally pointing at my house. It's right here. So I'm going, but I'm not going to run, and he's like, now he wanted me to move faster. And I'm like, no, I'm going to get there. And what he ended up doing was throwing me on the hood of a car and putting me in handcuffs. And, there was some things that transpired during that, altercation. And that really put me in a position to learn more about the criminal justice system. Not only growing up in the heart of West Philly, 55th and Catherine, for those who know. I come from an area that is not, the best, but we experienced a lot of run-ins with law enforcement in the area that I grew up in. But that particular involvement that I experienced with that police officer was very traumatic for me. So I went to college, and initially I wanted to be a heart surgeon, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a doctor. And I was like, you know what? No. And I was like, I that's what, steered my direction into criminal justice. I was like, I need to learn what's right, what's wrong, what are the policies, the procedures, like what's, like all of those like intricate pieces that are overlooked because of power, that law enforcement enforces on citizens and things like that. So I studied criminal justice. My bachelor's, I studied criminal justice. And then I took that and I had to learn more. That wasn't enough. Like I was like in that like SVU mindset where I'm like, okay, well, why did they do it and how and all of that. So I went for my master's in criminology because that kind of shifts gears in the sense that like, criminal justice kind of encompasses all of the things, probation, parole, whatever you want to go in or pursue. But once I got to criminology, I'm like, okay, let me wrap my mind around what the criminal mind looks like, and understanding all of those pieces. But once I did that, I came out of it and I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like this is the service field, all good. And, but being able to get employment and things like that coming out of college, but I didn't really know what to do, after that. So I ended up in human services for, I guess like about 10 years, maybe. I was put in these positions where I realized over time that I have this strategic mindset, like I can go into any environment, any capacity, and kind of unfold all of these layers of things that people tend to overlook, tend to, be complacent with. And I put that to use and I went back to school and I got my master's with organizational leadership and management. So that way I can encompass all of the business aspects. Like, okay, like what does this mean and how does it make sense and how can I apply it in real life? And with that, I've, been working and everything like that. And I ended up developing my business, the Kirby company, out of it because I realized that I had a huge passion with like relationship management. I'm always big on maintaining good relationships and partnerships and collaboration and things like that. So that was what came out of it was my business, the Kirby company, and being able to do business consulting. So taking that strategic mindset and helping nonprofits and for-profits and, businesses start up and all of those things. So that's a quick insight on like how it started and how I ended up here. But day-to-day job, I'm the director of anti-violence community partnership grants. So full circle moment. Now I'm, in a position where I can help fund those community organizations that are combating anti-violence on a day-to-day basis. So
let me, because you shared a lot, and I'm always like I'm like dropping down things. So this is essentially a curfew violation. You're a young woman. You're 17 years old. This male police officer comes up to you and essentially arrests you because you're not moving fast enough to get into your house, for a curfew violation.
Yeah.
Again, you mentioned the abuse of power. Now we've got, gender roles, you know what I mean? I don't know the race of this officer, but if they didn't look like, he was a Black officer. Okay. So there's, statistics and scenarios around, that as well. But, our officers, we are taught as children they are our friends. They are to be trusted. They are here to help us. They're here to keep you safe, right? Here you are, a young 17-year-old girl, not committing a crime, not engaged in any violent activity, not engaged in any criminal activity other than being a sassy 17-year-old. I'm gonna say that because I have a sassy 17-year-old. So, and I know I'm always tapping my foot, waiting for her because she moves at her own pace. I have left her. I've left her on the corner several times because she's taken too long to come out the house. So I understand moving slow and all of that. Like I told, you know what I mean? You get into that power structure. But at the end of the day, that officer is the one that's in control of that situation. He is the one that made that situation escalate into something else for whatever reason. Power hungry, power struck. Maybe he was triggered and he got a sassy 17-year-old kid. You know what I mean? Whoever knows, but we're always giving these officers a pass for their bad behavior. And we call it out all the time. Like it's just not acceptable. And so for that to be traumatizing to you, and I can't imagine how traumatizing that was. But for you to take that and use it as fuel, motivation, inspiration, like, oh, hell no, let me understand why this crazy guy did what he did. Let me get into a field so that I can help other people not become victims of police brutality. Like it's just, you know, from that one instance. And it's unfortunate. And I say this all the time about our young men getting incarcerated and getting double digits. And I'm like, why do you have to go to prison to unlock your natural born talents of being, you know, whenever they come out? I mean, they're entrepreneurs, they're artists, they're musicians, and they're just doing all this amazing stuff. And I'm like, why did you have to be locked in a cage for 20 years for that to mature and under the most hostile, violent, and traumatizing environment? But maybe this is just the resiliency of Black men or humans. But when I meet folks that have done double-digit years, they are some of the most incredible people I have ever met. And I'm sure doing the work that you're doing now, you're seeing and meeting folks like that, men and women. But also too, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri right now doing a training for participatory defense. So we are here training other groups how to do this supportive work, how to stand in the gap for people that are fighting criminal cases. And there was a young lady in this training, and she said, I didn't think I was system impacted because I didn't spend enough time in jail. And I was like, whoa, we all kind of like started jumping. She's like, wait. Y'all didn't let me finish. She said it wasn't until she started doing this work that she realized 1 minute, one altercation with law enforcement or the criminal legal system is enough to impact you for the rest of your life. So it don't matter. I only did 12 hours. That is 12 hours too many for my liking. I used to say the same thing, like I'm not system impacted enough, like, or you're not Black enough, or you're not this enough. You know what I mean? And it's like, nah, if it impacted you and you got a story to tell, it's enough. It's enough. And so I'm just grateful and thankful that you took that situation and created something to build your life. You know what I mean? You created a life for yourself, education, and now you're in a position, like you said, to help other people, to share your story. That's powerful. And to be in a position to be able to actually do something about it. We all got stories to tell, but you're in a position to be able to do something about it, put the money where the mouth is, put where the rubber meets the road, all those things. Like you are literally went from that pivotal moment as a 17-year-old girl to now. I'm gonna call it out a little early. I don't know if I can say, but your birthday's tomorrow. So I'm gonna leave it at that. You know, look at that. And you know, people don't realize, and you know, I'm giving you your flowers. Like people don't realize, like shit, like, ma'am, you did the damn thing. You did the damn thing because so many women, like we saw those statistics, so many women would have and could have been broken. And rightfully so. And I'm thankful and grateful to whatever it is that's inside of you, that you are still here and that you turned it around and you are here helping us do the things so that we can protect other young people from these police brutality. So I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to kind of touch on what you mentioned, with like other people and finding their moment and like things like that. A lot of people that I grew up with or went to school with or whatever, they like, I've seen people go through, the criminal justice system. I've seen people be impacted by that one, moment that went left with law enforcement and things like that. And I'm like, like everybody, like you said, like everybody isn't happy where they're like, all right, it's time to get on the other side of this. And sometimes it takes the time to get there. But I want to share one story where I had one of my really, really good friends in high school. And, she was hanging with the wrong people, wrong time, things like that. And she ended up getting locked up because she ended up getting tied to a murder. And and it was insane for me to see that at like 16, 17. It was around the same time. It was right before I went to college. But for me to see that, and I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, how did this happen? And like all of these things. And she's just like, I don't care. You know what I mean? She's like, this is who I am. I'm just going to accept it for what it is, whatever. And I fast forward now, I actually ran across her on social media. I think it was like 5 years ago. And she's like has his family and she's like doing really good and she's like working and all these things. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm so happy for you. Like, remember that time? And then, you know what I mean? I'm like, remember all of those things that happened. And she's like, you know what? And I like to, speak to what you just mentioned. She had to have that pivotal moment. Like she had to go through the trenches to get to the rainbow, if that makes sense. So it's like some people kind of have to go through the process, not necessarily that process. I don't agree with that, but I don't know. Like I always, in studying criminology, it made me think about, or more so consider, people's thought process when it comes to certain things and like where they are in their life and the things that they've experienced and like why they have the outlook that they have. And I didn't understand it then, but looking back at my experience and then considering what happened with her and then seeing her now, I'm like, not that I get it, but I'm like, okay, makes sense. Like, cause I kind of have to go through all of those things to get to the other side. But it's unfortunate because sometimes, you don't want to, nobody wants to be in the criminal justice system. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to go through that, but here we are. And it's one of those things. So yeah.
Absolutely. It's that, why me situation. And that spirit always says, why not you? You know what I mean? And it's like, this is going to be your journey. It's filled with rocks and pits and potholes and wrong turns and thorns and all this stuff. But when you get on the other side, you are going to be the person you were designed and destined to be. Absolutely. And I had that revelation, not necessarily with a personal situation, not necessarily, criminal legal stuff, but you know what I mean? A failed marriage, an abusive marriage, and was really, really angry for a long time. But guess what? I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be the woman I am today. Maybe wouldn't have the courage to do this or the courage to do that. And it's like, okay, once you kind of are sat down with it and have an opportunity or have somebody to even guide you through it. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Because if I didn't, where would I be? I have no idea. No idea.
That's the part. Yeah. I love that.
I wake up with gratitude. I wake up with, a positive outlook. Now, the day may chip away and how positive I am and how much energy and compassion and, tolerance, you have as the day goes on. But, I definitely try to get up and be intentional and grateful and set out to keep that level as high as possible, as you go throughout the day. And so I'm just grateful for that. And hopefully, other folks will be able to take that lesson, see your example, of what it is to be resilient and to be able to take a situation and turn it around, spin it around on its head, and do something phenomenal that they would never have expected you to do.
Yeah.
And so that's beautiful. Okay. We still got these 5 folks in the StreamYard. I don't know if they can hear me, but y'all need to log out and get in on the on Facebook or YouTube and sign in there so that you can comment on what Erica and I are talking about. And so one of the questions it is, and we've talked about, you touched on it, but how can you dive deeper into your experience and the work that you do in the community?
Yeah.
Because you're working with, the city, but what about your personal work? Because you sit on board, like I said, from courtroom to boardroom, so you sitting on boards and you're lending your experience and your talent to the community. So talk a little more about that.
So I'm on 3 boards right now.
Not to be a force.
Yeah, about to be a fourth. Yes. So I'm on 4 boards. We're speaking into existence right now. And as it relates to the work that I do right now, it kind of fell in my lap with my day-to-day job, like with the city and everything like that. I came across it and I was like, oh my God. I was like, I studied criminal justice so many years ago and I've been working in this business realm for all of these years. And I'm like, how do I get back? And ironically enough, thankfully, I landed the job and things like that. But it helps me tap into my original passion and why I've always had this thought process where I'm like, I need to tap back into my community. You know what I mean? I was one of those, like I said, girls that grew up, in the hood or whatever. And I had my family pour into me. I'm so grateful for my family because they poured into me, but everybody doesn't have that. You know what I mean? Right. So I'm like, how do you tap into your resources, tap into your community where you can get something out of it? So that's the part that I love about what I do, and why I offer, my insight and my assistance and, education and all the other things to the boards that I sit on, because, it helps me wrap my mind around making it make sense for driving the impact in those organizations. You know what I mean? I feel good standing behind oh no, they stand for something. They're doing something powerful. I want to be a part of this. How can I be a part of it? So I always had that twofold where I'm like, all right, day to day, this is what I do, and I can tap in because I get paid to do it. But then it's the other part where I'm like, no, I'm for my people, you know what I mean? And I want all of us to succeed in any way that I can help somebody get to the next level. I want to be able to be a part of that if I can. So that's it's a nice leveled balance that I can maintain with having both. It's a I always use the word or the term, my heart is full, it's something that feeds me, because I always have this thing where I look at stuff where I'm like, okay, you get paid for what you do, you provide a service, you get paid for what, providing a service. But then what else? What else is driving you? What else is it that you think about and you wake up and you're like, no, I need to do this. I know that this is going to be something that's rewarding to me because I put some effort into it. And that's how, I ended up on the boards and all these committees and all these things. I need to, keep pouring into my community and whatever that looks like. And I'm a huge nerd at heart, honestly. So I'm always, listen, people don't know, but I'm a huge nerd. So I'm always in a space to learn. You know what I mean? I'm we don't know everything, and things are constantly changing and constantly evolving, and society's constantly shifting gears, so to speak. And it's okay, well, what makes sense? What worked before may not work now, but how do we make what work better? So I'm always in that space where I'm okay, how can I bring what I know to the table or what I don't know to as far as it relates to whatever's happening in the moment. How can I make this better? How can I make myself better? How do I show up better? So I'm always in that mindset when it comes to things, like I said, for my day-to-day and for, those boards and, community organizations that I get to tap into. I have 152 community organizations that Yeah, it's a lot of them. But it's nice because like I said, I can see all the different capacities that they're working in. It's everything from yoga to basketball to just specifically like family, intervention, things like that. I get to see all the different realms of how people are tapping into the community and how they're combating violence at the same time. So
right. Yeah, no, that's just such a, I mean, that must be a special place to be in, to be able to see all of that. Because, we as regular folks out here in the community, we don't get to see all of that. We just see what's not working, right? That's all we get to see is what's not working, because we still see our young people engaging in violent activity, or, we see our young people, with gun violence and just all of these things. And it's like, and that the money is still there. Like, we're still funding, these types of things. So it's like, but they are working. They are working. They are saving our children. And I always say, I don't care if we save only one. You know what I mean? That's more than what we've had before, and they're worth it. Every child is worth it, and every young person that is in Philadelphia or in any other smaller community that they're experiencing, like where there's poverty and there's drug use and all these kinds of things, all these social ills that kind of chip away at their hope, right? And what they see, believing in their future, and just giving them outlets. Like, yeah, they may have to walk through this neighborhood to get to that program, you know what I mean? But hopefully on that way back home, that they are filled with something that can help them, get up and do it another day.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, look, like this is my gratitude episode, because I'm just so grateful for you, and not just you being in that position, but you having the background that you have to be in that position. And so it's not just coming from book smarts. It's coming from lived experience. It's coming from, being in the community and seeing it for yourself. And I imagine it has to hit different. And like you said, when you're full, I imagine this is very fulfilling, knowing, you know what I mean, seeing firsthand, having lived experience, how devastating some of these situations can be for our young people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Preaching to the choir. So tell us about the Kirby group. Tell us about that. So did the Kirby group, so how long has that been in existence? Tell us what it is, what you do, and kind of the premise behind that.
Yeah. So the Kirby company was founded 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're fairly new, honestly. And that was the thing, like kind of going back to what I mentioned early on, I was already doing the things, I would, go into, I always have this story where I talk about it, where I was in a position, within an organization, and every year the CEO came to me, he's like, okay, you did great with this. I need you to go over here and set this up. I'm like, okay, now go over there and do that. And he came back the next year. All right, great. Yep. Now I need you to come over here and do this. I'm like, okay. So then I would go and do that. I had 4 different positions in 4 years at one organization. And I couldn't wrap my mind around. I'm like, what is up? And I'm like, of course, initially, I'm like, they're using me. And what is going on? Like I had all these things. And then I was like, you know what? I need to make sense of this. You know what I mean? Like, I need to make sense of like why he's moving me in these spaces. And I had a very frank conversation with him one day. And he said, Erica, the day I met you, I knew that you could come into this and turn it upside down in a good way. He's like, I like the way you talk, your thought process and all of the things. He's like, I knew you were going to come in here and get all this stuff together. And I'm like, oh, well, I appreciate you for believing in me, because, that's essentially what happened. But with that, taking that and taking it in was how the Kirby company was founded. I was like, you know what? I need to do something with this. Like, if I'm going to make it make sense, I need to make it make sense for me, not for all of these other organizations. Right. I created the Kirby company. And ironically enough, I talk about it all the time. I started it and I was just doing like business consulting. Like, I would have clients that that would say like, hey, I need like a business plan, or, I need a strategic plan for, this project, or, all of the basic foundational things, policies and procedures and manuals and all of those things. I'm like, okay. But then I started with the relationship management piece. I started getting access to these spaces with, big time players like the Eagles and the Sixers and all these other. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what are you doing? It's like, all right, now I did the education piece, and then I did the work piece, and now, started the business, and now I'm going into this lane. And I never forget, I was talking to somebody, and they were, I was talking about my client. And I was like, oh, well, they're going to do this. They're going to meet here. I need to touch base with this person. Well, and they just looked at me. They were like, are you an agent? Are you? And I was like, didn't think about that way. I was like, So then PR came, and I'm like, oh, I guess I need to tap into this too. So it's been a very interesting journey that I've been able to experience throughout, my career portfolio, where I'm like, all of the things that I wasn't looking for ended up finding me. And I, tapped into that. I'm like, okay, I always I always have self-reflection moments. And I do that in any situation, capacity, relationship, wherever. I'm like, okay, what am I bringing to the table? How am I showing up? All of those things. And I had that self-reflection moment. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I might need to tap into PR. And then after that, I incorporated that into the Kirby company. So between business consulting and PR, me and my clients, we're on a roll. So, but I love the relationship management piece of the Kirby company. I can say that's the part of it that fulfills me most, because I love people, and especially my people. So I'm always, in the space where I'm like, no, we need to do this together. Like, or how can I help you, or you help me, and we win together? I'm always in a space. So it helps, again, bring it back full circle for me, where I'm like pouring into my community. My community is pouring into me, and I'm helping everybody else, elevate. And it also helps me elevate, because I'm on that same train with them, going to the, promised land, whatever. So, so that's the Kirby company.
I love it. I love it. And, it's, for lack of a more technical term, going with the flow, because your degrees don't necessarily lend to that. And so, I did not wake up, like you said, you wanted to be a heart surgeon. I wanted to be a scientist. I had a lab coat and one of the chemicals, all that stuff. Love science. How I became, but I also had my grandmother's heart of a servant. You know what I mean? I'm a community servant. And I just, even in all of my other career paths or career choices or jobs, I was always doing community oriented things. I was always organizing events to help, women in shelters get free haircuts, or kids, in their backpacks, or kids making sure that they had, parties and all of those things. It's just making sure that people had, if they didn't have, we made sure that they had, but this whole criminal justice space was, I just told somebody the other day, was not on my bingo card, and did not, but being obedient and going where you're kind of led to go. And it, like you said, it's making sense. And it just lit a fire in me, because like the injustice of it. And I feel sorry, my one daughter, my kids, I have 4 kids, and they all have some traits of mine, and some are amplified and elevated and others not so much. But my middle daughter, she is so paralyzed by injustice that it paralyzes her, and it has manifested itself into a mental health situation for her. But she gets so fixated, and she feels it so deeply that, she just struggles. And where with me, I have it just enough that I'm like, I get fired up and I want to go fight.
Yep.
Where her, she just, you know what I mean? She can't process that feeling, that pain, and that, because when you watch, and I've always, even in high school and stuff, I was always rooting for the underdog, always befriended the kid that didn't have any friends. Like, just protecting people, and didn't understand it until now, as I'm starting to become more self-aware and meeting other people in this space, in this struggle, and in this movement, just how injustice shows up for people in different ways and different reasons. And, today in the training, we were talking about how, felony murder rule. It's like, you weren't the shooter. You might have been the lookout dude around the corner. You might have been the driver. You might have been somebody that called somebody and said something. You're getting that same murder charge, that same life without parole sentence as the actual shooter. And it is so devastating, because those folks that had like these ancillary roles to play in this crime never plead guilty, because they believe they're innocent against murder. And so they're the ones that end up with the LWOP, while the actual shooter takes the deal and they get 25 years, and they're home. And these other folks that did not pull the trigger are sitting there spending the rest of their lives in prison. Shit is so fucked up. It's crazy. You know what I mean? And that's how it shows up, and enrages me. Like, it is infuriating. And to watch the system, the court actors just act like it's normal. And it's like, yo, how? How is this normal? And so again, I just keep going back to being grateful for you and the energy and the spirit that you bring into this space, because it could have been so different. And you could be angry, you could be bitter, you could be all of these things, right? And you harnessed it and manifested, and you're out here like helping folks, building community, building other organizations. Because not only are you funding these organizations to do the work for the community, but these organizations, you're funding somebody's livelihood. You know what I mean? These folks are getting a paycheck so that they can take care of their families. And I guarantee you, I can only imagine how non-traditional some of these things have to be, because of some people have histories.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I can't necessarily get a job with the city of Philadelphia because of my particular background, but now I can be an entrepreneur, and the city of Philadelphia can fund my work. And I can give back to my community, and I can, help young people or whomever it is be whole, be healed, and find pathways that are not the same pathway that they may have taken that led to such a hard road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it just is so deep what you're able to do for folks that, all I can say is just gratitude, So we are, do we have somebody pop in? Well, I'm gonna use this opportunity because there's still 3 people. I don't know if Andrew's connected, but folks that are on the StreamYard link, that you're kind of like in the studio with us, if you just click on the links, either one to go to the Facebook channel or one to go to our Facebook page or the YouTube channel, you can watch the show from there, and you can actually comment. You can't kind of comment about what we're having this conversation on this end, because you're not actually in the studio. You're kind of in the waiting area. So to be more engaged, we'd love you to be more engaged. So click on either one of those links, the Facebook or the YouTube link, that will take you to where you're able to watch the show, and you can actively engage in our comments. So we're trying to get folks to do that. Probably your people. So I know they're here. I know they're showing up for you. And actually, Ange said we can't hear you. So I don't know if I heard a noise. So I don't know if something happened with your audio, but I'm not sure about that. Yep. And I don't know if it's because other folks are in. I'm not sure. I was hearing some noise.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
We are good.
My phone is trying to connect to my MacBook. So it's like, I'm like, no.
Doing some stuff. And so we've got Sean Faison and Sharon Walker that are in our comments. Hey, y'all. Thank you. They're showing up for their girl. Erica, we appreciate y'all. We really, really do. All right, cool. And so one of the things is the racial injustices that kind of impacted your business too. So is it where they're not PR people representing Black and Brown community in the way that they should, or in an authentic manner, where they kind of dictate? I mean, I don't know your business practice, but I can only imagine how I'll use my girl Muffin, how non-melanated people show up in Black spaces, not understanding the cultural, the all of those things. So I touched on something. I touched on something. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh my God. That's so, oh my God. I'm so happy you said that. And I try to, being in the States, you got to steer away from some things. I'm so happy you touched on that because I see it all the time. And like I go into these spaces and, to be that, Black or brown founder, and they're like, oh, here's, such and such. And I'm like, how does that work? Like, how are you representing, so to speak, this organization in this space where it makes sense? And just to be very frank about it, it's like, where's the alignment here? How, how do we make this make sense? And not that, like, people get hung up on like what you look like and like all of those things. And I'm like, listen, I always say you either have it or you don't, and that's, any capacity. And I always see like, oh my God, I just had this conversation with my client the other day, and he was saying that he hired somebody for another, part of his like operations team. And he's like, yeah, because this and that. And I was like, is she Black? And not to be, let me be clear. I'm not that person, like everybody can help anybody and, all of the things. But if your mission is geared toward Black and brown communities and serving Black and brown people, when you bring somebody who is not that into this space, it automatically, and this is just knowledge that I've experienced from PR as well. It's like everybody is just like, so it's like, do they do paperwork or like, like everybody makes sense of it, and then it gets conflicting. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't know how to, I don't know how to tap into that. I don't know. I don't really understand it myself. So I sit there and I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, how does this relate to what's actually going on? Like, how does this relate to what your mission and your values and, all of those things that you're pushing, but you have this person here that does not look anything like anybody else in this room.
Right.
So I see it all the time and I can't make sense of it, but it's one of those things where it's like, that's why I push so hard, like with my clients and things like that. I'm like, oh no, we're showing up. And we're going to shake this room. Like I always say, we're about to shake the room up. And honestly, I say we're about to shake some shit up. Like I'm like, keep it 100. So yes. I always go into the space. I'm like, oh no, like they're going to know when we walk in this room, and you go in with that confidence and everything like that. But I don't know if it's, I can't speak for everybody, but I know some people that I had conversation with, they're like, well, I don't really know. I don't have that kind of confidence where I can walk in a room and like, everybody's like, oh, well, who is this? Or, or I don't have that niche, so to speak, where they're like, oh, I know I can go in here and come out with something. I'm like, why don't you?
Yeah. Because you obviously you created this business, so you are the expert in your own space. So stand on business, stand on that, go in that room, take up space, and walk out what you came for.
That's it. That is it. And I try to like push that, and I gained so many different relationships because of that. Because people would be like, how do you do it? You okay with public speaking and all that? Because I'm like, I show up as myself. The confidence starts within. Absolutely. I know what I can talk about, and I lead with that. So everything else is just, that's preliminary. Like, you know what I mean? It's like everything else is just want to come, like regardless. But be confident in how you show up, and the information that and whatever it is that you're trying to present. And I try to always tell people that I'm like, you have to be a driving force for you first, But it's so interesting that you said that, because I just had this conversation. I'm like, because I met somebody and they were like, yeah, this is Melissa, and I'm like, what's she doing here? what she doing? How you doing? What? Like, how do we make this make sense? But it's it makes it more of an important thing for me to show up for my people. You know what I mean? It makes it even more like, I love challenges. You know what I mean? I love being in the space where I'm like, oh, what? You said what? I'm that person. Where I'm like, you said I can't do what? Watch this. You know, that's how I am. But everybody doesn't have that. But when you are in that, you know, when you have that drive, I'm like, take that all the way. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to show, like you said, if you're the founder and you're showing up and this is what you're you know, pushing to do and all of the things, stand 10 toes on that all the time across the board. You know what I mean? But I'll never understand it. And I don't know if they think that because of the, you know, the look of it, it's like, oh, well, this is space. It's like,
yeah. No, and like in this, you know, there's no in the criminal justice space, yes, Black, Brown, Indigenous are predominantly the ones, you know, making up the bulk of the numbers. But there are others that are there as well. But when we have non-Black allies, they understand their role and space and lane. You know what I mean? And it's not a lane that we put them in. It's just their lane. You know what I mean? Anytime we're talking about Black-led, Black-serving organizations or space or service or whatever it is, there can be non-Black people in that space as long as they understand their role. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that their role is, oh, you just a door holder or this or that, but the role is not to lead any work in that space. And so, and I think that comes from training, unlearning a lot of colonialism and colonization, all of that, you know, and just low self-esteem and believing that, okay, I can't go up against a non-white or a non-Black person and be successful and win. You know what I mean? So I think there's just so many things that if you're just, I mean, I'll make up, like you always say, oh, when you're selling widgets, right? Well, there's no Black or brown or male, white dominated widget sales people. You're just selling widgets. So you got to do your thing. So that's business. But when we're talking about injustices and oppression and racism and all of that, you have to be intentional about how you move in those spaces.
Absolutely.
And protective, you know? And so, yeah, like the folks that are just selling widgets don't get the benefit of working in a space, unfortunately, that is aggressive and oppressive to people of color. Where you now have to stand on, I'm in this space, I'm showing up as me, like it or not the fuck, this is who I am, and this is what I came to do, this is what it's about, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to proceed.
That part. You know what I mean? That part. Yep.
And you can't be afraid, and you should not. Let me say that. You should not be afraid, because people are people, and it's not that you're showing up aggressive, you're showing up authentic, you're showing up as yourself, you're showing up as an expert in your field, and you should be confident in that. It doesn't matter who's in the room.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I need you to, I'm gonna run this back and write that down. I'm like, my people, listen, okay?
It's recorded. We're gonna pull that one. But yes, like this is just like when you're in certain spaces and certain trainings and having to have that mindset and thinking and fighting in that space, it just makes sense in every other space. You know what I mean? And so I always say I wish people could be in those spaces where we're learning these things and experiencing these things and being with other people, because we just started adding Indigenous because we were doing a training and we're always talking about Black and brown. Well, guess what? Indigenous people don't identify as Black or brown.
That part. Yep.
And they were like, hold up.
Yep.
Oh, thank you for that. You know what I mean? Where we could have been like, I don't know what you, no, thank you for that. We want to make sure that we got everybody included. We're not trying to leave anybody out or offend anyone when we're talking about stuff that's really going to uplift people. You know? So it is all good, and I'm thankful. I'm so thankful that I've met you, that I get to know you, that I'm gonna get to call you my sister now. You know what I mean? We are sisters, because everybody we family now. We doing this work. We're in it to win it. And so I think we're at that moment in the show. Yes. So we are at my favorite part of the show. It is our what the fuck moment. And the what the fuck moment is any situation, any thought or whatever that comes to mind, makes you kind of scratch your head. It's usually like, what the fuck? Negative, but we could be a positive, like, oh my God, what the fuck? They done gave me this money. They done fucked up and gave me this money. We about to get it. You know, it could be something like that. And I want to say that this what the fuck moment is sponsored because the National Council of Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. Rock out with them like no other. They have us out here in Kansas City, Missouri, training up folks. And I said, you know what? I'm going to dedicate this what the fuck moment to the National Council because I appreciate them. They holding it down, making sure that we no longer incarcerate women and girls for any crime. Let alone nonviolent crimes, taking mothers away from their children, all that kind of crazy stuff. So, Erica, hit me with your what the fuck moment.
Oh God. So
I know it could be many. Well, while you think, I'm going to tell you, and it's not my what the fuck moment. It is Kansas City, Missouri's what the fuck moment. Because I sure enough stepped off the plane with my Eagles championship hoodie on yesterday.
You just better.
They didn't want me to get in this car. The man at the thing didn't want to check me out. The people at the restaurant was looking at me. Then they started talking about Jalen Hurts and this and that and this. Now they want to talk about football because I'm sitting there with my Eagles hoodie on. So I know all of Kansas City that came across me was like, what the fuck? Yes, we here.
Yes. That's a good one.
Yes.
That's a good one. I'll say I had a what the fuck moment recently when I had to have a conversation with some people at the city in the mayor's office. And they were like, oh, we got this money and yeah, we're going to create this fund and yeah, get us to these people. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what?
Just nonchalant, right?
Like,
millions of dollars, like, yeah.
1.8 to be exact. But I'm like, well, what's the eligibility criteria? And what
they just gotta be breathing.
Cousin Mary from down the street. Like, how do you qualify? What's the stipulation? I had so many questions. And I was just like, what the fuck? And I was like, you know what? That's one of those moments where I was like, I don't get paid enough to think for everybody else.
Right, to give a fuck. But guess what? They got 3 months to spend that money in the budget. That's it. They like, I don't care who you give it to.
Figure it out.
Find somebody. Okay.
Figure it out. And
I'm raising my hand.
And I'm looking at all the things and I'm just like,
that's wild.
How did we get here? How?
That's
the political game, like you said, like, you know, it's like, oh, we got this money, we got to figure it out, we got to write it off somewhere, figure it out.
Yeah.
So that was my most recent. What?
That would have me scratching my head. Yeah. Good show. And so I thank you for that. And we got one more treat for you. Since tomorrow is your birthday, we gonna say, well, I'm not gonna say happy birthday. We got a little slide that says happy birthday. Yay! It's your birthday. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. So yes, shout out to you. Enjoy your birthday tomorrow. Hopefully you took the day off tomorrow, Wednesday, and then maybe the rest of the week. You got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You got a weekend. You know, hopefully you do something nice. You deserve it. Thank you for everything that you do. Don't hang up. I have to do the last, like our closing stuff, all that stuff that says thank you, like, follow, and share our social medias. And we had a phenomenal, like, 2-part series last month with Tamika and Exorist. Their father his case initiated the regulation of the bail bond industry. Kind of regulated, not that it did enough. Okay, the regulation is not enough, But what it did do was cause states for bail bonds and bounty hunters that are coming from other states, they have to alert law enforcement in the state that they're going to, that they're coming to get someone. They can't just show up. They're like, oh, you just can't come up here and take our people. And it's like, okay, but if you call first, you can take them. That was the regulation. So from like, oh God, 60 years ago, long time, 30 years, 40 years ago, long time, has not been regulated since. You know what I mean? Bail bonds still have crazy access and, you know, even some privileges that law enforcement officers don't have. You know what I mean? So it was crazy. And I just shout out to them. And they were just such a plethora of information and historical information about, because we didn't even touch on the institution, you know, the modern day slavery of some of these, you know, law enforcement, all some of the practices and just the money. Like, you know, we can talk for days and days and days about how it shows up today, how slavery is still showing up today, and how we as a people, you know, when our folks are coming home from incarceration, yeah, you still got 20 years left. Let's get it. Hit the ground running. We're going to hook them up with you so that they can get their business coaching and get their PR and get all this stuff. If they're in the city of Philadelphia, they're going to get some of this money. You know what I mean? And give back.
I got clients all the way in Maryland. It's all right.
There you go. There you go. So wherever you coming home from, you know what I mean? I got your girl. I got the woman for you that's going to elevate you and take you to the next level. And so for that, I am so appreciative. Oh, we're on Spotify, so you can now listen to the audio version of this podcast on all the streaming platforms. We are on all TikTok and all Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Like, follow, and share. You know, the more we get our followers up and get this information out here, I mean, it's wealth of information. It's such good stuff that our folks need to hear and learn from. And it's indigestible stuff that makes sense. It's not, we ain't talking crazy. We ain't using, you know, these big words that they don't understand. This is digestible for anyone, especially our people and our young people.
Absolutely.
To grasp hold of and save and you know, watch a 5-minute video. Oh, one more thing. Since I talked about the Eagles, we are having our first edition of Smoking Whiskey's tailgate and game watch party at Von C. Von C is a fabulous host to us. They allow us to use their phenomenal space. They got a phenomenal outdoor space. We're going to have all the tailgating games, cornhole, giant Jenga, giant checkers, or Connect Four. Again, we've got whiskey and snacks, and the game Eagles versus Green Bay will be on the big screen. We'll have fire pits and everything outside. It's going to be super dope. Monday night football game, so we're trying something a little different. But yeah, y'all come on out and check us out and commune and watch the football game with us. And with that, birthday girl, peace out, be safe, and don't hang up.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Purely Speculation. If you learned something, share something. Please like, follow, and share this show. The more our communities know, the more they are empowered, and the faster we can create change. Purely Speculation would not be made possible without the generous support of the Community Justice Exchange, the Health Sparks Frank E. Boston Black Justice Fund, Philadelphia Foundation, and Reform Alliance. Thank you. Booyah.
Intuition different, already lived and dreamt it. Visions make my vision clear as I'm jogging through this fog of life. I be fog lights with the fog set, body and I'm all set. Baby, can you be my Cardi B on an offset? Toast we got it, self we build it.